welcome to Winnie Recap. Today I'm going to explain a movie called Labor Day, which came out in 2013. It's an American drama romance movie. The movie has a 35% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, which is an okay score. The movie is about Adele, who's a depressed single mother. Her husband left her, and she lives alone with her son Henry. One day, Henry and Adele help an injured man named Frank, but turns out he's a criminal and holds them hostages in their own home. Adele falls in love with Henry and many crazy events occur. But before we begin, beware of spoilers, watch out and take care. And I hope you enjoy the video. At the beginning of the movie, we saw that in the year 1887, we get to know that the main character Adele is very depressed because she's a single mom. She has a son to take care of all on her own. Her husband left her years ago. Adele's son's name is Henry, and at the time he's 13 years old. Adele used to spend most of her time alone. Henry sometimes notices that his mother is depressed, and to make his mother comfortable and to release some of her stress, he sometimes dances with his mother. Henry sometimes cooks different dishes for his mother to eat. Henry is a good son. He knows how much his mother is struggling for him, and to relax her, he also massages her. Henry knows that it was not an easy job to be a single parent. Henry is very worried about his mother because no matter how hard Henry tries, his mother never gets out of depression. One day, Adele and Henry go to the mall for shopping. Henry saw an adult magazine in the mall, but he does not buy the magazine because of his mom's presence at the mall. Then a man approaches Henry and asks him for help. He told Henry that he is injured and he needs help. That man's name is Frank. Henry does not know how to get rid of Frank. Frank then scares Adele and grabs Henry by the neck. Adele gets scared, and that's how Frank gets into Adele's house, by scaring her. At the house, Adele asks Frank about his purpose, and then we get to know that Frank is a criminal and the police are searching for him. Adele asks Frank about his crime, but Frank does not respond. Frank ties Adele to a chair. Adele becomes a hostage in her own house. Frank starts to live with them, and after some days, Adele gets used to living with Frank. Henry eats food with them at the table. Henry and Frank play together. Frank becomes a part of the family. Henry and Adele think that Frank is a good guy. Then we see a flashback where we see the crime of Frank. Frank is a veteran of the Vietnam War. In the past, he loved a girl named Mendy. Frank and Mendy started dating each other and dated for a long time, and then Frank proposes to Mendy for marriage. Mendy accepts his proposal and they both get married. Frank and Mendy have a son after 1 year of their marriage. Frank starts to doubt Mendy. He thinks that Mendy cheated on him and he's not the father of the kid. He confronts Mendy for cheating, and in the argument, he pushes Mendy and she falls down and dies. His son also dies because of drowning. Frank gets sent to jail because of Mendy's death. At the present time, Frank, Henry, and Adele are making lasagna in the kitchen together. After some days, Frank starts flirting with Adele and she also gives him a positive response. Henry notices all of this. Frank and Adele get physical with each other and Henry knows about that. Henry is buying groceries and he also buys a razor. Shopkeeper asks him for whom he's buying the razor. Henry tells the shopkeeper that he's buying the razor for himself. Henry meets a teenage girl named Eleanor. Henry wants to get closer to Eleanor, but she does not like that and leaves. On the next day in a library, Henry meets Eleanor again. They both become good friends and they start to go on outings with each other. Then we see Adele's flashback. After the birth of Henry, Adele and her husband try very much to get a daughter, but Adele suffers miscarriages every time. Because of her miscarriages, Adele gets depressed and she becomes a patient of anxiety. Henry's father also leaves Adele. Now Frank is present for her to replace the place of her husband, and Frank also likes Adele. Police are searching for Frank. Frank's posters are present everywhere. Henry loves her mother so much. He takes good care of his mother. Adele likes to dance a lot. She teaches Frank and Henry how to dance. Frank is very experienced in repairing cars. Frank teaches Henry about car repairing. One day, Adele's neighbor leaves her handicapped son in their house for some time. They all play basketball in the backyard. Adele does not know how to play basketball. Frank teaches her to play basketball. At the night when Frank and Adele are getting physical, Adele tells Frank about her miscarriages. She says to Frank that she cannot give him family. Frank replies by saying that he already had a family in Adele and Henry. Frank and Adele love each other. Frank asks Adele to move to Canada with him. Adele tells Henry about that. Henry starts to think that his mom will leave him for Frank. Adele understands Henry's condition. She hugs Henry and says to him that no matter where they go, Henry will also be there with Adele. Henry gets so emotional in the scene. Now they all start packing their stuff. Before leaving, Henry meets Eleanor for the last time. Henry likes Eleanor, and he tells her everything. Eleanor says to Henry that one day Adele and Frank will leave you and you will become alone. Henry tells Eleanor about Frank's past. Eleanor and Henry then kiss each other. The next morning, they are about to leave for Canada. Henry writes a note and leaves it in his father's mailbox. When he was going back to his house, a police officer offers a lift to Henry. Henry takes his offer. While dropping Henry, the police officer sees that Adele is very scared by seeing him, and she's standing in front of the car full of their luggage. The police officer questions Adele. Adele and Henry answer the question to get out of the situation. The police officer's doubts get cleared and he leaves from there. Adele goes to the bank with Henry for withdrawing all the cash. By this act, all the bank employees doubted them. After some time, bank staff withdrew all the cash and gave it to Adele. When Adele and Henry were in the bank, their neighbor comes into Adele's house and she sees Frank in the house. Frank has shaved his beard and not got caught, but still, that neighbor recognizes him. The note Henry left at his father's house is found by his father. He reads the note and then he calls the police. Adele and Henry come home. All three of them are about to leave for Canada when the police arrive there. Now it's very hard for Frank to get rid of the police. Frank does not want to put Henry and Adele's life in danger, so he ties Adele and Henry to a chair so the police think that Frank uses them as hostages. The police come to Adele's house. Frank surrenders in front of the police. The police think that Henry and Adele are the victims, so they set them free. Frank again gets into jail. Adele tells the lawyer that Frank is a nice person and he lived with them like a family member. She tells Frank never mistreated them. After listening to Adele, the lawyer tells her that if this case gets open in the court, then it's a possibility that Adele may lose Henry. After listening to that from the lawyer, Adele gets scared of losing Henry, so she decided to not take any further steps and to reopen the case. Henry is her only son and she does not want to lose him. Adele misses Frank very much. She writes letters to Frank time by time. Frank reads all her letters, but for her safety, Frank does not send her a reply to any of her letters. Time flies and years have passed. Henry is now an adult. He opens a pie shop and his shop is going well. Frank writes Henry a letter from the jail. Through the magazine, Frank knows that Henry has a pie business and his business is doing very well. Frank writes in his letter that he wants to meet Henry after getting released from jail. He also writes that maybe Adele married someone else. Henry meets his real father and tells him that the reason behind breaking his marriage with Henry's mom was her miscarriages, which happened one after another. When Adele gave birth to an already dead baby girl, he broke down and broke his marriage with Adele and left her. Henry also read Frank's letter. Frank, after getting released from the jail, comes to meet Henry. Henry and Frank, while meeting each other after many years, gets very emotional and they hug each other. Henry tells Frank that Adele hasn't gotten married and she's waiting for Frank to be free and she still loves Frank. He tells Frank that he and Adele are still living in the same house in which Frank resided with them. Later, Frank goes to meet Adele. Adele and Frank both are now very old. Frank and Adele hug each other. Frank says to Adele that now he promised that he will never leave Adele alone from now, and the movie ends there. To watch more explanations of these kind of movies, click on the videos on your screen, and don't forget to let me know how you feel about today's video in the comments down below. Kindly like the video and subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon so you don't miss any new videos. And at last I will say, stay safe, stay well, thanks for watching.